There was a woman long ago who changed the world. Her name was Cleopatra. She was a queen. She was a scholar. She was a survivor. She lived over 2,000 years ago, but her story still speaks to us today. It is a story of power, of love, of danger, and of courage. It is a story you will never forget. The city had a famous library. It was called the Great Library of Alexandria. It was filled with thousands of scrolls. It held the knowledge of the ancient world. Cleopatra grew up in this city. She grew up surrounded by ideas and learning. Her father was King Ptolemy XII. Cleopatra's family was not originally from Egypt. They were of Greek descent. They had come to Egypt many generations before. They had ruled the land for almost 300 years. Cleopatra grew up with brothers and sisters. In royal families of that time, brothers and sisters sometimes married each other. This was the custom. It was meant to keep power inside the family. But it also created great conflict. Brothers fought brothers, sisters turned against sisters. Everyone wanted the crown. Everyone wanted control. From a young age, Cleopatra loved to learn. She read everything she could find. She studied science, she studied mathematics, she studied philosophy and music. She spent long hours in the great library of Alexandria. She read scroll after scroll. She never stopped asking questions. She wanted to understand how the world worked. But perhaps her greatest achievement was language. Cleopatra could speak and read in many languages. She spoke Greek. She learned Egyptian. This was rare. This was remarkable. Most rulers in her family never bothered to learn the Egyptian language. They thought it was beneath them. But Cleopatra was different. She wanted to speak directly to her people. She wanted them to hear their queen in their own tongue. She wanted them to love her. Those who saw her said she was the most brilliant person at court. Some said she was the most intelligent person in all of Egypt. But intelligence alone was not enough to protect Egypt. Egypt was in trouble. Once it had been one of the most powerful kingdoms on earth. Now its power was fading. A new force was rising in the world. That force was Rome. Rome was a city far away in what is now Italy. But Roman armies were everywhere. They were expanding. They were conquering. Every year they took more land. Everyone feared Rome. Egypt had great wealth, but Egypt did not have a strong army. Cleopatra's father understood this. He tried to stay friendly with Rome. He sent them money. He sent them gifts. But the Romans did not respect him. They called him a nickname. They called him the flute player. They laughed at him. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father died. This was in the year 51 BC. Cleopatra became queen. But there was a problem. By tradition, a queen could not rule alone. She had to share power with a king. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, became co-ruler. He was only 10 years old. At first, this seemed workable. Cleopatra made the decisions. She met the foreign visitors. She managed the treasury. She was the true ruler. But her brother's advisors were not happy. They wanted to control the young boy. A powerful woman was not part of their plan. They began to work against Cleopatra. They spread rumors. They told people she was dangerous. They said she was too ambitious. They said she did not respect tradition. Slowly, they turned the people against her. After 3 years, they succeeded. Cleopatra was forced to leave Egypt. She fled to Syria. She was only 21 years old. She had lost her kingdom. But Cleopatra did not give up. In Syria, she did not sit still and grieve. She made a plan. She needed soldiers. She needed money. She needed allies. She spoke with local leaders. She made promises. She negotiated. She gathered a small army. She was going to fight her way back to the throne. She was not going to let others decide her fate. While Cleopatra was in Syria, something important happened in Egypt. A powerful Roman commander arrived in Alexandria. His name was Julius Caesar. Caesar was one of the most powerful men on earth. He was chasing his enemy, a man named Pompey. Pompey had run to Egypt, hoping the Egyptians would protect him, but he was wrong. When Pompey arrived, the advisors of Ptolemy had him killed. They thought this would please Caesar. They thought it would make Caesar their friend. When Caesar arrived a few days later, he was not pleased. He found the death of Pompey dishonorable. Caesar settled into the royal palace in Alexandria, and this is where the story becomes truly remarkable. Cleopatra heard that Caesar was in Egypt. She saw her opportunity. If she could meet Caesar, if she could win his support, she could become queen again. But there was a serious problem. Her brother and his advisors controlled all of Alexandria. If Cleopatra walked through the city gates, she would be killed. She needed a plan, a clever, daring, unforgettable plan. And Cleopatra was exactly the right person to make one. One evening, a small boat arrived at the palace docks. A man stepped off the boat. He was carrying a large, rolled-up carpet. He told the palace guards he had a gift for Caesar. The guards let him through. The man walked into Caesar's private chamber. He placed the carpet on the floor. He began to unroll it, and out stepped Cleopatra. She had been hidden inside the carpet. This was how she introduced herself to the most powerful man in the world. Caesar was stunned. He stood there speechless. This woman had risked her life just to speak with him. That took incredible courage. That took incredible intelligence. Cleopatra spoke to Caesar in Latin, his own language. She was charming. She was brilliant. She was magnetic. She explained what was happening in Egypt. She told him how her brother's advisors were destroying the kingdom. She told him she was the rightful ruler. Caesar listened closely.
Then came the darkest day. In the year 44 BC, Julius Caesar was murdered. A group of Roman senators stabbed him. They feared he wanted to become a king. Rome was a republic. Romans were proud of that. They did not want a king. Caesar's death changed everything. Cleopatra was in Rome when it happened. She was terrified. She gathered her son and ran back to Egypt. The future was uncertain. The danger was very real. After Caesar died, Rome fell into civil war. Many men fought for control. One of them was Mark Antony. Antony was a brave and powerful general. He had been one of Caesar's closest friends. Mark Antony and another man named Octavian defeated Caesar's killers. Then they divided the Roman world between them. Octavian took the western provinces. Antony took the east. Antony needed money for his military campaigns. Egypt was very rich. So Antony requested a meeting with Cleopatra. They met in a city called Tarsus. Cleopatra arrived on a magnificent ship. The sails were purple, the oars were made of silver. She wore the finest clothing. She looked like a goddess. Mark Antony was completely captivated. Just as she had with Caesar, Cleopatra formed a deep bond with Antony. They became lovers. But there was also a practical reason they stayed together. Antony needed Egypt's gold. Cleopatra needed Rome's military protection. They needed each other. They spent much time together. They held great banquets and celebrations. Cleopatra had 3 children with Mark Antony. There was a set of twins, a boy and a girl, and then another son.
But back in Rome, Octavian was angry. He grew to hate Mark Antony. He started a propaganda campaign. He told the Roman people that Antony had abandoned his homeland. He said Antony valued a foreign queen more than his own people. He called Cleopatra dangerous. He said she wanted to conquer Rome. Slowly, Octavian turned the Roman people against the couple. The tension grew. War was coming. In the year 31 BC, a great naval battle took place. It happened near a place called Actium. Mark Antony and Cleopatra had a large fleet of ships. Octavian also had a large fleet. They fought for many hours. Antony and Cleopatra's forces were losing. Then something unexpected happened. Cleopatra's ships suddenly turned and sailed away. They left the battle. Mark Antony made a fateful decision. He abandoned his fleet to follow her. His remaining soldiers felt betrayed. They surrendered to Octavian. The battle was over. Antony and Cleopatra had lost. They retreated to Egypt. They knew Octavian would follow. They tried to prepare their defenses. They searched for allies, but no one would help them. No one wanted to stand against Octavian's great power. A year later, Octavian's forces arrived in Egypt. There was a brief battle. Mark Antony was defeated again. Then came a terrible moment. Someone gave Mark Antony false news. He was told that Cleopatra was dead. The news was not true, but Antony believed it. Overcome with grief, he took his own life. He fell on his sword. But Cleopatra was still alive. Her attendants carried the dying Antony to her side. He died in her arms. She held the man she loved as he took his final breath.
Now Cleopatra stood completely alone. Octavian took her captive. He treated her with politeness on the outside, but she was his prisoner. That was the truth. Cleopatra understood exactly what Octavian planned. He was going to take her to Rome. He was going to parade her through the streets. She would be shown like a trophy, like a prize of war. For a queen, there was no greater humiliation. Cleopatra refused to allow it. She would not let Octavian write the ending of her story. On August 12th, in the year 30 BC, Cleopatra died. She was 39 years old. Most historians believe she chose to end her own life. Some stories say she was bitten by a venomous snake. Others say she drank poison. No one knows for certain, but this is certain. She chose the time and the manner of her own death. She did not let Octavian take that from her. Even at the very end, she remained in control. With Cleopatra gone, Egypt fell. Octavian took the land and made it a province of Rome. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh. After her, there were no more Egyptian rulers. Egypt had no independence for a very long time. An era had ended. An ancient world had closed. And yet, her memory never faded. More than 2,000 years have passed. We still speak her name. Why does Cleopatra still matter? Because she was truly different. She lived in a world ruled by powerful men, and she stood among them as an equal. She did not rely only on her appearance. She relied on her mind. She mastered languages. She studied science. She read philosophy. She used knowledge as her greatest weapon. Was she perfect? No, she was not. Some say she cared more about her own power than about her people. That may be true.
But she lived in an age of great danger. She fought hard to protect Egypt's freedom. She came very close to succeeding, and she never stopped fighting until the very end. Cleopatra's life teaches us something important. Knowledge is a form of power. Learning a language can open doors. Reading can change your destiny. Courage, even in the face of impossible odds, matters. She was not perfect, but she never gave up. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. We remember her not just for what she lost. We remember her for how she lived, with intelligence, with courage, with her whole heart. This has been the story of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, a woman who shaped the ancient world and whose story still echoes across time.